The corporate environment is not very healthy right now. Most people are pretty tired. They're not doing great with the speed of the environment and the level of stress and the lack of recovery.
One thing that seems to be a universal among successful people is that they lack a fear of other people's opinions.
FOPO.
FOPO.
Fear of people's opinions, right? I think that this is the greatest constrictor of potential. Those people are incredibly powerful. There's only three things that people can train. They can train their craft, they can train their body, and they can train their mind. And the tip of the arrow, the best of the best of the best, they are not leaving any one of those up to chance. So they are investing in all three in a world-class way. If you don't know how to work with emotions or work well with stress, you become very, very, very expensive. You're just spending a lot of energy throughout the day that doesn't need to be spent.
Do you find that high performers tend to have an attenuated sense of a fear of rejection?
I think it's in us. Now, if you don't have a fear of rejection, there's probably something a little off. That could be flat out narcissism. Purpose does not need to be grand. There's a science around purpose, and that science is that it has three components. One is that
Dr. Michael Gervais, welcome back to the show.
Stoked to be here.
At long last.
I know.
I love following your work on social media. I love your podcast. And when I was on your show a couple years ago now, which doesn't seem quite that long ago, but it was one of my favorite conversations.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
I mean, I appreciate that. Time flies, as you know. And so I can't believe when I look back that it's been almost 5 years. So well done on congratulations on what you're building.
Thank you.
Your community is awesome.
Thank you, brother. Well, when it comes to high performance and mastery across myriad domains, few people come to mind for me, and you are at the very top.
Oh, fun.
So,
cool.
Yeah. So I want to get into, all the ways that my listeners can optimize their performance across whatever domain it is, whether it's, just managing day-to-day life, whether it's, their creative endeavors, whether it's their professional life, because I know you get actionable and achievable. So yeah, let's just lay it out. What are the latest things that you're diving into?
Well, let's start with call it the big umbrella first, is that this concept of mastery has gripped me. How do the best in the world operate? What is it that they are doing in this seemingly invisible way because they're working with their mind, which we can't see our minds? What are they doing with their mind to be able to, quote unquote, be at home with themselves, to be completely fluid in their actions? And that takes time. It takes time under tension to know how your mind works, to know how your thought one and thought two create and work with emotion A, emotion B. There's this interaction between thoughts and feelings and emotions that impact performance. And I want to just start by revealing how the best in the world use their mind, use their mental skills and their emotional skills to be their very best. And that's what I've been fascinated by.
How conscious of a form of work is it for the high performers that you work with? I mean, how meta do they get?
I've been fortunate to work for the last 25 years across multiple domains, like you mentioned, with world's best, whether it's in the NFL, NBA, Fortune 20 CEOs and their entire companies, along with the arts as well. And I've come to really understand that there's only three things that people can train. They can train their craft, they can train their body, and they can train their mind. And the tip of the arrow, the best of the best of the best, they are not leaving any one of those up to chance. So they are investing in all three in a world-class way. And when I speak to audiences or groups of folks, and I ask them, how many of you have formally trained your mind? What percentage of folks do you think raise their hand out of, say, 1,000 folks?
Very low.
Right. And if I were to say, how many of you have formally trained your craft? They go, oh, yeah, okay, I know what you mean now. How many of you formally trained your body? Oh, yeah, okay, get it. Sets and reps in the gym or whatever, got it. How many of you formally trained your mind? And they're like, oh, wow, I don't know. Does yoga count? Maybe, it's good. Does meditation count? Yeah, there's something to that. But why do we not invest in our psychology? If psychology is the study of yourself, how do you really work? How do you optimize what we would all say is one of the most powerful levers for the human experience is the way that you think, the way you interpret, the way that you express yourself. Like, why don't we do it? Because my parents' generation, my grandparents' generation, same with yours, they handed us a narrative that psychology was for the weak. They tabooed it. They shunned it. They said that that's for people that don't have their stuff together. Actually, what world-class performers are doing is saying, I'm not buying that, because I know when I put so much time in training my body, training my craft, that I've got this moment where there's some pressure involved, I need to be great there too. So no, I need to know how to operate in calm environments, operate in mildly stressed environments, and operate exceptionally well in high stakes, high stress environments. And that's why they invest.
How common is among the tier of individuals that you work with, how common is imposter syndrome?
I mean, welcome to the club. Yeah, I mean, that's that. So let me explain it this way. Imposter syndrome, let's just make sure we're saying the same thing, is like, I'm afraid that they're going to find out, right? Like, I don't have what they think I have. Okay, so let me take you into like a very typical day in an NFL team. So I was fortunate to spend 10 seasons with an NFL club, the Seattle Seahawks. I'm still with them today. And I think what often gets missed is that the high workload day in an NFL week is Wednesday. Okay, so Wednesday, it's on. Okay, so you play on Sunday, kind of take a light day Monday, a much more rest on Tuesday, and then you ramp up to a high intensity training on Wednesday. What's happening for the athletes on Wednesday and Thursday and Friday and a little bit on Saturday is that they know to get good, to be great, they have to go to that messy edge where they're not proficient, where they could fall into 1,000 pieces, where they could literally like drop the ball, catch the ball, whatever that skill is, in front of their peers who want their job. There's a depth chart in sport that's very public. So you got a bunch of receivers and you're the number one receiver. You got to work at your edge to get better. And when you work at your edge, you're making mistakes. And when people are observing, okay, there's chum in the water. Okay, the coaches are watching too. Do I play Max or not? And if you're not proficient in practice, you start to make people worry about what would show up on game day. So what I'm pointing to is that they are exceptionally skilled as an organization and for individuals to go to their messy edge every day. And that messy edge has some stakes to it. For you and me, what is our messy edge? It's not catching a ball in front of people that want our job. It's much more intimate. It's saying the things that are hard to say with our loved ones. So emotionally, it's moving to the edge and being honest in the things that we're really feeling and observing or caring about. We always have that emotional edge available to us, but it's hard to get to that because that's what really risk is about, and things can go wrong there. We're not very good there. How do I tie that together to the imposter syndrome? That's really what it is. They're going to find out at that messy edge that I don't have the skills that they think I do. And welcome to the club. You got to figure out how to work with it. And the way that I work with it myself and help other folks work with it is that we have to value something else greater than their opinions of us. And so if you think about the directionality of importance, is it outside of me? Am I playing for the applause of others, or am I playing to the music inside of me? And what that prose means really is, am I connected to my great purpose? Do I know, first of all, what my purpose is? Okay. Do I have a quote unquote purpose mindset that I'm more connected to what matters most to me rather than what they think of me? That hinge between those two creates an incredible freedom or an incredible state of anxiety. If I'm caring about what they think, which I cannot control, which is probably pretty critical, that coming at me, that's exhausting.
Oh, I 100% relate to that. Like, getting to where I've gotten with my career, and I would not by any means consider myself at the end of the line, but yeah, there's always going to be criticism, and as long as you keep your eye on your noble aim, whatever that is, that mission that for me is larger than myself. It's helping to improve the lives of my listeners, anybody who follows me, who's, you know, read any of my books. Then any affront that I encounter along the way to my ego, I mean, it's like rain on my windshield. You know, it just falls off. It's like a missionary. A missionary is somebody who's like on a mission for something greater than themselves. And it's like, yeah, there's going to be threats, there are going to be challenges, but you've got this aim that's bigger than yourself, that's going to exist well beyond, you know, your time on this, you know, on this planet.
You're actually specifically anchoring to the science of purpose. Are you familiar with that? Like, is that running in the background?
No.
Yeah, so there's a science around purpose, and that science is that it has three components to kind of appease the scientists around this. One is that it has to matter to you. Nobody can give you your purpose. So pillar one, it has to matter to you. Pillar two, it's bigger than you. It's not about you. It's about being in service of something larger, okay? And then three, it's out in front of you. So it's something to work towards. So it matters to you. You need some other resources and people because it's to boldly go after this thing that's much bigger than you, and it's a work in progress. You have all those three. Now you're anchored to purpose. Now, double click on that. Purpose does not need to be grand. It does not need to be saving the trees here or water there or, you know, city streets here. It does not need to be that. It can be something as intimate as sending my children to college, like my purpose, or to raise my children to flourish, okay? Or something, you know, like be a great partner. Fill in the blanks. It can be intimate and small, if you will, in that, or grand and large, like what Mother Teresa or Gandhi, you know, fill in the blanks. So I just want to create a little space around the science and the application that this is one of the key tall tent poles for people that live a great life, is that they're very clear on what matters most to them. And when they enter an environment, they're connected to that. And those people are hard to move off the block. Those people are hard to sway. Those people are so clear about what matters most. I'm not saying they're rigid in their thinking, but they come in as a force, like, look, we got some work to do. You know, there's this thing happening right now. I can't believe we're not talking about more. Like, this thing is happening, like, because it matters so much. It's so big and it's so important to them. Come on, let's go. Let's get it. And I'll do a slight slide into some more science, is that people that are connected to purpose, they report overall better happiness, more resilience in life. They live a little bit longer. And the list goes on. Like, it's really phenomenal, according to research, people that are connected to purpose. So I think it's one of the big rocks to get in the container. It's one of the tall tent poles of a good life, if you will, is knowing purpose.
Well, then why does success so frequently lead to the sense of, you know, I don't deserve this level of success, this level of attention, this level of prosperity? I feel like it's pretty common for people. You know, I was listening to Arthur Brooks, who I would put you and him in the same category of must follows.
Well, thank you.
And he was saying that, you know, it's actually like if somebody doesn't have a sense of imposter syndrome, then it's very likely that they're harboring the dark triad of personality traits. Like almost everybody who's gotten to a point of success from pursuing what they see as their purpose, as their passion, they generally will, like, in his experience, he's found that they generally will always have a sense of imposter syndrome, at least at times.
Is that if you're not clear on your purpose? Wait, say that again, and let's operationalize that the dark triad is a bit of Machiavellianism, a bit of sociopathology, and a bit of narcissism. And it's those three personality traits that collapse on each other that make that person scary. So that's the dark triad. And is the thought that you're introducing that people that don't have purpose are the dark triad? No, it can't be that simple. Help me bridge that.
It's that people who believe that they're entitled to their success, people that get to a certain point of success and are like, I deserve this, you know.
That's narcissism,
is it?
Point blank. They didn't have that thought just when they had success. They had that thought well before. And it's also like, it's a cool through line that you're bringing up. take it out of personality traits for just a minute, is that people that are masterful at a craft, they don't present differently once they are recognized as being masterful. And if they do, they're clouded. They're kind of off the path, if you will. They have a way that they engage with their thoughts, their feelings, their internal world, and experience, and a technical craft. They have a unique way. There's a warmth contour, which has a fire underneath of it, which is like, no, listen, I'm trying to really understand something. And that habit that is inside of them is the mark of the path of mastery of both self and or craft. And that's what the science of sports psychology really is. Let's study high performers, not necessarily masters, but let's study high performers. Those patterns are not just evident once they are a winner. They're there before. And that's the most fun part, is like, what are those habits? What are those patterns? And it is aspirationally feels like it's something that we all want, but it's really agitatingly hard to work at your edge. That's a very difficult, prickly, unsettled experience. And oftentimes we need other people to support us, to hold the standard, to challenge us, because I think we want it. I think most people want it, but it's actually not for everybody.
One thing that seems to be a universal among successful people is that they lack a fear of other people's opinions.
Yes, FOPO.
FOPO.
Fear of people's opinions, right? I think that this is the greatest constrictor of potential. And I don't think I subscribe to that thought completely. So I do want to understand, like, what do you mean by that?
Well, I think that there's a really topical example right now as we record this there's an interview, I believe it was from GQ magazine, that's now, we're in the midst of its virality. It's an interview with Sydney Sweeney where she's being asked in a really covert way whether or not she feels any necessity to apologize for the uproar among certain parts that her American Eagle, is it American Eagle? Yeah, her American Eagle ad caused because of some very tenuous connection that some out there believe that it might have to, white supremacy, which I personally don't believe. I think it was just a brilliant ad, and I think Sydney Sweeney's great, and she's very neutral. But, the ad was criticized by some. And so there's this GQ ad where this reporter is asking her, basically like prodding her to be an apologist for the ad, which again, I think was a fantastic ad. And many people think that it was a fantastic ad. But her just utter disregard for any sense of a need of apologism for it is just awesome. And I think it's a real sort of, I don't know, I think it's like a cool moment of where we stand culturally in 2025, where this the sort of mob coming after you doesn't really seem to have the power that it once did.
So we could put a light on something I think you're picking up on. And I'm going to remove myself from this being benevolent or problematic for humanity just for a moment, okay? But just look at the core variables. Is that when a person or group, but a person has incredible alignment between their thoughts, the words that they use, and the actions they take. When they have great alignment between those, and it's anchored in something that really matters, back to that purpose. So when the purpose is clear and big, meaningful, and out in front of you, that idea, and then you align your thoughts, words, and actions with great consistency, those people are incredibly powerful. Again, that could be Gandhi, it could be whomever, and it also are the folks that are of the dark triad. They line their thoughts, words, and actions up in just about in every environment they're in, and it's anchored to something bigger than them. Those are very compelling people. And they have done the hard work to get that alignment with themselves. I'm not saying good or bad. I'm just saying like you're picking up on something that is awesome. It's very, very powerful.
Now, why are they so compelling? Is it because they've exhibited a willingness to step outside of the herd?
Yes.
And to in one way or another lead?
Well, it's like there's a cleanliness to them because the way that they're lining, of all the thousands of choices you could have, you're not choosing one that is tainted by what they will think of you, but it is beautifully aligned to the thing that matters to you. And that takes great discipline because your brain and my brain, we were given this gift from our ancestors to make sure that we didn't get kicked out of the tribe. I don't need to go into this narrative. We all know the narrative. But I'll shorthand it is that if you and I were responsible for something in the tribe and they trusted us to go out and hunt or gather, do something, and we came back and we're empty-handed. Okay. They might give us a pass. They might look and be like, what happened? And you say, I don't know, it's Gervais. He's the one. He broke all the arrows, or whatever. Like we'd have an argument about it or we're lying. But if we did it 2 or 3 times, we'd be relegated. And if you get kicked out of the tribe, the wild is too wild for just the 2 of us to figure out alone. So we are wired to be pack animals for that simple reason. And what our brains have done is the most dangerous thing, because it's a near-death sentence, the most dangerous thing is somebody beginning to push you out. So we scan the world to tune for the slightest hint of rejection. And it is so primal. It is so alive in us. It's so beneath the surface that we do all of these crazy gymnastics, this social kind of conformity to fit in. That is a corruption to your potential. It's a corruption to what people really want from you, to know who you are and what you stand for. And if you've got the skills to back it up, if you're constantly shifting form, how do I trust that person? So it's a double entendre that those folks that are constantly playing that game, they do get shunned because they're not trustworthy and they're not living in alignment with what matters most to them. So what you're talking about with her is that I think she's like, listen, I did it in a pure way. You've put a narrative on it. You've done something. I was really clean about what mattered to me. I'm lining up my thoughts, words, and actions here. And your reaction's your reaction, whatever you want. I'm clean with it.
She's like, I like jeans.
Yeah, right.
I wear them every day.
Yeah.
AE makes great jeans.
Yeah. And so when you're clean, if you will, what I'm talking about is you've got that tinsel strength. You've got that deep alignment between thoughts, words, and actions. And it's not like flippant. It's like you've really done some internal work so that you can have that alignment.
Is there, because fear of rejection, I mean, that is a human universal. I mean, do you find that high performers tend to have like an attenuated sense of a fear of rejection?
I think it's in us. Now, if you don't have a fear of rejection, there's probably something a little off. That could be flat out narcissism, right? Like, oddly enough, not to get too deep into this, that they are so terrified of rejection that they prop themselves up in a way that it looks like they don't care, but the original trauma is so great that all they want is to be seen.
So narcissists have a profound fear of rejection.
Oh, radical. But they don't look that way. And what ends up happening over time is that they have an inability to tell the difference between themselves and you. So if I'm the narcissist in this situation and you're wearing, what is the t-shirt you have on?
Cole Buxton.
And
some British streetwear.
Let's say I don't like that brand or I don't like t-shirts and you're wearing, it's on your body. It's your choice, right? I would make you feel so bad about it. I'd give you snide remarks. I'd maybe say something directly. I'd embarrass you because you're embarrassing me. Isn't that complicated? The inability to recognize the difference between myself and you is the hallmark of the trauma that they are trying to sort out. And so it's complicated. But anyways, yes, there's a fragility. Narcissists tend to be fragile, but they prop up like they're really strong.
How do we overcome, assuming we're not narcissists, how do we overcome fear of rejection?
Oh, I think work with it. Recognize that it's there. It's part of the brain's mandate to make sure that you don't get pushed into the wild. But to know that the excessive worry about it, about being rejected, about the opinions of others. It's the excessive worry that is problematic. The awareness of it, just having this conversation, is cool. I think it's totally normal. But then how much of your life, how much of your thinking wraps around that axle? You know, like, did you wear the shirt for my approval, or did you wear it because you feel comfortable in a t-shirt, right? That's a small little thing. When you go to a holiday party, are you walking around with a cocktail even though you don't want to work or don't want to like drink? You know, like when you go to a restaurant, do you open up your phone because if you're by yourself, because it's kind of weird to sit by yourself and just eat your food? You know, there's all these little subtle things. Are you opening your phone so people think that you've got something going on as opposed to just enjoying the meal? FOPO is just slid in so many parts of life. How do you work with it? Recognize that it's part of a healthy brain, and then have something replace the power of it, which is purpose. So a purpose-based identity is very different than a performance-based identity. And we live in a performance-driven culture. What is a performance-based identity is that your identity is wrapped around the axle of what you do and how well you do it next to me. Okay, so man, we start young in the US. We start young on that. We force rank grades. We give you an A and me a B, and then that's kind of public. And so instantly we get rewarded like, oh, good job, Max, you're so smart. Like we're rewarded and attuned to whether we're great on a soccer field or great in a classroom we do not ask people to be connected to something bigger. And so I'm not suggesting that at second grade people should be setting their purpose, because that's a little bit cultish, you know. But at some point in our society, that needs to be a little bit of a rite of passage. Like, what are you really, 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 really doing here? What do you want to do? And we're finding in corporate environments that the corporate environment is not very healthy right now. Most people are pretty tired. They're not doing great with the speed of the environment and the level of stress and the lack of recovery. And one of the kind of most important things we can do, we could tell you sleep more and eat better and meditate, and all of that's great, good stuff, for sure. No arguments about that. But if you are unclear about what matters most to you, your purpose, and the compelling future that matters to you, those are different. The future, the way you think about the future and the purpose of what you're trying to do, they're related, but they're different. And if you don't have those two in place, which I think you do, Max, you shared your purpose, right? Do you have a compelling future that you can see in your mind's eye?
That's a great question. I don't really have a crystallized vision of where I see myself in 5-10 years. I just know that I love what I do, and I just try to show up every day and continue to do what I love to do.
Okay, so cool, check the box. That's winning for sure. And when you think about when you do your thing well, and you've got a community and you've got a small group of folks that you are doing some stuff with, and if you guys were awesome for the next 30 years, what would you imagine the difference that's taken place in the world you inhabit or the family that you're building? Like, go big for just a moment. And I'll start with mine. The vision I can't shake out of my head is that the rooms that I'm invited to be in, the communities that 1 in 5 people in those rooms unlock what it's like to flourish. So 1 in 5 flourishing. So I'm at 20%. That's actually anchored in science. How do you get something to change? 1 in 5 people are enough to shift a culture, that critical mass. So 1 in 5 people that are fundamentally flourishing, and they understand how they're doing it. So now they become this pebble in the pond, and they can shift others in that room. And I'm not doing some weird like higher than thou, and I'm flourishing, and let me teach you how, but we're both engineers, and I'm not saying that. But when you understand it and you can repeat it, and you enter a room with great purpose, like this light and spark behind your eyes, this fire in your belly, this kind of spark about who you are. Holy shit. And you really see something that's beautiful in the future for all of us. Come on, those are my people.
Yeah.
Those are the rooms I want to be in and the people I want to be with.
You're evoking for me the concept of the finite game versus the infinite game. I'm sure you're familiar with that concept. I don't know who coined it.
Well, I think it's been around a while. Simon Sinek recently wrote about it, and he did a nice job with it. And so, but the concept has been around for a bit. But yeah, please keep going.
Yeah. I mean, so for me, my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, is the finite game basically describes a game that's played to win or lose. That's the finite game. The infinite game is a game that's played purely to perpetuate its own playing so that you could just continue playing it. And so for me, I feel like I've very much settled into the infinite game where I'm just enjoying playing this game. And I wake up every day grateful that I get to continue playing. And I orient my behaviors, my activities, my efforts towards ways to continue to get to play this game that I derive so much, gratitude from.
That's awesome. That's really nice. And I maybe it's something to play with or consider. Like, if I get to do this for another 10, 20, 30 years, 5 years, whatever it is, like, what do I imagine is such a compelling future that I am part of, that is, something that I hope others could do. Like, that's the kind of stitching between purpose and vision, if you will. So the compelling future is just a fun way to think about kind of keeping you on the path. Even though that you're loving the path, there's things that will push you, knock you off. There's times when you're tired or whatever, and so I need people to help me, to love me up and kick my ass, and I'm talking about supporting me and challenging me. And I also need to know what true north is. I need to know what that compelling future is for me. And I'll thin slice it. People ask me, like, what is success? And there's lots of ways we could answer that, right? One version of that for me is that I have an adult relationship with my son. Like, he's 17 now. And so that's my investment, is like, I want a long relationship with this person that matters to me. So that keeps me going, like, to do when I'm parenting in a lot of ways is really inconvenient. It challenges a lot of like ease in life. But I do that hard, difficult, challenging work benevolently so that I'm watering the seeds for a long growth arc. So that's another way of thinking about like a compelling future, is like in your role, for partners or for teammates or fill in the blank.
Yeah, there's no, I guess it's another way of saying that it's acknowledgement that there's no destination necessarily. That I guess it's another way of saying enjoy the journey, and curate your life in a way so that you can not only enjoy the journey, but that you can continue on that journey.
Yeah. And for me, like, really understanding how I work with my inner life, my thoughts and feelings, is the thing that allows me to navigate that to my highest stability, towards my potential. And that's what I've learned from Best in the World, is that they understand the tripwires or the slide door or the slide ramps to certain thought patterns that either work for them or don't. And the ones that are exceptional, they just about use everything in their world, and it runs through their filter to help them. So if you, let's say this was a real story, is I was working with a heavyweight boxer. It was a championship fight. And I said, let's talk about the weigh-ins. So the weigh-ins, they kind of strip down, they get on the scale in front of a bunch of people, and their competitor walks up and they have a moment, like a posing moment. He goes, oh yeah, that's when the whole thing's won and lost. I go, okay. And he goes, no, I'm telling you right now, that's where the whole thing's won and lost. There's so much that happens in that moment. And I say, okay, tell me more. And he says, look, I know what it feels like when I'm full and I am about it, like that sense that I'm, okay, cool. What's that like? He described it. And he says, when I look at him with that, when I look at my competitor with that intensity, with that presence, and he blinks, I know I got him. I go, okay, he doesn't blink. He goes, he doesn't blink. I know I got him there too. I go, what do you mean? He goes, he blinks, he can't handle it. If he's trying to look at me, he's got nothing. He's going to feel this full presence. I got him either way. So that idea is that no matter what the external circumstances are, true masters of self, it goes through, not in an inaccurate way, but it comes through in a way that works with them, works for them. So they convert it where, let's say you're not sophisticated with knowing how your thought patterns work, and you show up and you're trying to be your biggest, but you really got this other pattern of thought in there that's like, man, he looks strong, or like, man, I was eating a little too many donuts, or what fill in the blanks, right? So that just leaves an openness that is vulnerable to you being your very best.
Let's talk about burnout a little bit, because you work with such high performers that seem to be immune from burnout. I mean, they're whether it's their training regimens, they seem to have a degree of imperviousness to this phenomena that I think so many people are experiencing today. So what can we learn from high performers about preventing or seeing ourselves through when we're in the midst of it, burnout?
Do you remember the research from Hans Selye about acute stress or alarm? Okay. So this was 1920. It was 1920. Hans Selye. And really did a nice bit of research that is still holding up now, is that when you stress an organism, humans in the same case would follow suit, but when you stress an organism and there's an alarm, a predictable alarm response that takes place, fight or flight. Okay. And then if you don't allow it to fully recover or to recover, it stays in this moderate stress phase, which is like, it's okay. And as a human under moderate stress, like we can do some of our best work. It's good. Call it, a couple weeks, moderate stress. And if you don't manage that properly, you move to a very predictable arc, which is chronic stress. And that's marked by fatigue, staleness, burnout, early death. So when I was spending time, but when I'm working with world-class athletics or sporting organizations, I think most people that are not kind of behind those walls would be surprised at how much time we talk about being sophisticated in recovery. So paint another arc, which is a high alarm, high stress moment. And in elite sport, what we're doing is we're trying to have equal units of recovery as soon as we possibly can. So we're looking for high stress because that's the messy edge. That's where the unlocks happen. That's where growth takes place. And then we're looking for equal units of recovery multiple times a day. So you could have a macro cycle of over 24 hours, equal units of stress, high stress, acute stress, and then equal units of recovery over 24. But we're also looking for like little mesocycles, which is like every 4 hours, high stress, great recovery. Okay. And then you think about that over a week. Then there's a little bit larger cycle, and then over a season. Okay. And if you don't get that thing right, they get these little knick-knack injuries that turn into like hiccups in the way that they move, which now they're more vulnerable. They're a little bit off from what they could do. Okay. Point of this is that high stress, high recovery daily. When I popped my head into big business, I could not believe how are they doing it. The lack of recovery is alarming. So how do we do it? I think we use the sport model, which is love acute stress and be radically intelligent about acute or smart recovery. If you can do that every day, you're really onto something.
Well, it applies to training too. I mean, for me, like every time you talk about the messy edge, I'm thinking like when I'm approaching failure and I've got like one rep in reserve and I'm just going towards all-out failure and maybe even adding like an intensifier, like a drop set in the gym. That to me is like the most visceral way that I can relate to this idea on a day-to-day basis of the messy edge. And that's going to require some degree of recovery.
That's right.
And fueling yourself properly, et cetera, et cetera.
And and you have so many answers here on intelligent recovery. If you don't have the right macros or volume of food, it's problematic. If you're not sleeping right, it's problematic. Okay, and. But the thing I think is getting missed because of the taboo of psychology that we've been handed, which is changing, by the way. World-class athletes are changing that narrative. They're waving, they're making as much noise as they can to say, I don't know what you guys are talking about. Psychology matters. And it's part of how I do my life the best, my skill the best as well. And so what's taking place is that if you ate fish and vegetables, 3 meals, you got all your right kind of macro and interesting micronutrients, you slept for 8 hours, you did some mobility work, did some strength training work, happy days. That's a good day, right? And then you wake up the next morning. Theoretically, your bucket of energy would be high. It'd be refilled. Nice job. And as soon as you wake up, you flip open your phone and you're tuned to all the noise of the world, but you're not connected to the signal inside of you, right? So signal to noise ratio. And instantly you start to go to worry or anxiety or frustration or overwhelmment or intolerance. And that is kind of the main operating system for the first 20 minutes, 3 hours of your day, whatever the arc is. By the time you reach 2 o'clock, you're like, man, I need some caffeine. I'm tired. So if you don't have the last bucket of optimizing the way that you think, but you've done all of those other behavioral things well, you become a very expensive organism to run. If you don't know how to work with emotions or work well with stress, you become very, very, very expensive. And I mean that, I mean that you're just spending a lot of energy throughout the day that doesn't need to be spent. So back to our kind of comparison, world-class athletes, because they're investing in all 3 phases, craft, body, and mind, they're not writ large. In every room I'm in, there's plenty of people that are a mess. So I do not want to be naive here. But for the most part, they're sophisticated in all 3. So they know how to use their mind well under high stress experiences. So they recover better. One might think that they have a better chance of performing better and maybe living longer, but sport is kind of brutal. And some sports are pretty brutal on the body. So
applied to day-to-day life for people who are not necessarily professional athletes, like what does that look like in terms of a wellness principles to adopt in one's wellness routine?
I think you know the answer, right? And I appreciate you asking me. So all of those behavioral things that we talked about, which is you fill in the blanks here on what a good nutritional approach would be. No one's going to argue that 8 hours of sleep, maybe 7.25 or 8.6, like everyone's a little bit different, but it's somewhere between 7 and 9 according to just about every bit of research. We're now finding that over 10, we used to think it was not beneficial, but now there's some research that over 10 actually has some beneficial gains as well. I don't have time for that.
Over 10 hours of sleep?
Yeah.
Whoa.
I don't have time for it. I'm competing with myself the best I can to get 7.4. Now, that seems a little, I don't know, maybe too precise, but if I can get above 7.5 and not below 7, I'm pretty good. I feel pretty good. Anyways, so all the sleep stuff, and you're doing something for cardiovascular and muscular health, skeletal muscular health. Good. I'm going to go back to the holy grail for me is to make sure you understand how your thoughts and emotions work. And if you can set yourself up to wake up that circuitry in your brain. Now, the brain and the mind are different. I should pause here. The brain is the tissue, the electricity, that kind of stuff that sits in your skull, the 3.2 pounds that sits in your skull. And then the mind is like this invisible thing that is guiding how that brain tissue works. And the tricky thing about psychology, Max, is that the mind is completely invisible. We can't see our thoughts. We don't know how much they weigh. We don't know where they go. We don't know the origin or the end game for them. Like, we can't see our thoughts. Just like gravity, though. We can't see gravity, but we see the artifact. We can't see thoughts, but we can see the artifact of those thoughts, our behaviors. So back to the brain and the mind for just a moment is that we're trying to get the mind to be well attuned to the highest state we want to be in, as opposed to whipped around by what the world suggests how we ought to respond. Okay, so there's plenty of noise and alert systems in the world right now. And if we're not sophisticated in our filter and our thought patterns and the way we work with our thoughts, man, first 40 minutes of the day are really important. So your bias and my bias, our brains are biased for survival, as we talked about. So I want to strengthen different parts of my brain. I want to strengthen the neurocircuitry that helps find opportunity versus threat. And if you wake up in the morning before you even get out of your sheets and you do something in bed that's pretty small, but actually kind of sparks that circuitry, a la gratitude or optimism training, and it's super simple, or you do some mental imagery, which is something athletes do, to see you being great in, I don't know, maybe later in the afternoon, it's something you want to do. And you just did those 3 things with a couple breaths, call it 90 seconds of training. I'm happy to send what I just talked about to you and your community at any level. Like I've got an audio thing that I can just send out that you can figure out what you want to do with it. But it's super simple, mechanical. It gives you a great chance to start. It's like a little simple morning mindset routine.
I'm just so happy that you didn't say meditate, because many of us, myself included, just don't have the discipline to do it. What about if you struggle to get...
You do have the discipline.
To meditate?
You're really disciplined.
Well...
I think you have the substrate of discipline.
Yes, I do. I'm disciplined in certain regards, but I've tried many times to.
What I think you're like a lot of people in that. Like, what happens for you that it doesn't kind of stick?
Well, it's just that I genuinely have the sense that there are behaviors, practices in my life that are meditative, but I've long, mostly by meditation teachers, been gaslit to somehow believe that those are not the same thing, that they don't provide the same value that, sitting with my eyes closed and repeating a mantra to myself provide.
Yeah.
So, I'm not able in the middle of the day to turn my brain off on a consistent basis to be able to do that. And I've spent money. I've done meditation training, but I do things that are meditative to me. So I'm very disciplined about my workout routine, and I do that solo. I don't like working out I don't do group exercise. I don't like working out with friends, because for me that is like my me time. That's my solo time. So that's, to me, that is meditative to me.
Yeah, that's cool. There's lots of types of meditation. There's sitting meditation. There's walking meditation. There's eating meditation. There's lots of meditations. I do think that exercise is a tough one because of the ultimate aim of meditation. So let's kind of open this up for a minute, right? There's a meditation as a practice to be more aware. And if we just stop there, you could insert other practices to increase awareness. Okay, so awareness of what? Awareness of all things inside of you and outside of you is an ultimate aim for the mindfulness practice. So how does that work? Is that when you're sitting with your eyes closed, just to use the kind of more classic idea, and you focus on one thing, a mantra, a sound, a flickering candle, your inhale, whatever it is, then your exhale. Okay. When you're tuned to just the one thing, call that the signal for just a moment. What happens, on breath number 2 for me, my mind starts to wander over to some noise. And what I'm trying to do is bring my mind from the noise back to the signal. So I'm starting over 1,000 times in a handful of moments, right? And I'm just working to come back to the present moment. And when I do that, I become, each time I'm distracted by something I need to do, or my left hip hurts, or whatever. Is this working? Some sort of thought that I recognize that, oh, I'm distracted. That is the moment where you are more aware. You are aware. And that to me, I just need to sit down and kind of work through that tension, just like micro tears in a bicep. It's like micro moments of awareness and refocus is the thing. But if it's sitting and it's hard to do, journaling can also be a form of meditation. I have a hard time with that. I have a really hard time with it.
With journaling?
Yeah, I wish I was better at it, but it's just like it doesn't fit me well. Meditation fits me a little bit better. Putting myself in dangerous environments fits me really well. And that's a practice to increase awareness. Because if you're in a hostile, rugged, high-speed, high-stress environment, you have to be aware. And you have to figure out how to navigate those moments. The problem with those, though, versus sitting on a pillow, is there's consequences. Sitting on a pillow, there's no consequences. So I'm better in those high-speed environments because I spend time in non-consequential environments working with my mind.
You know what's actually kind of meditative for me? I hadn't realized this until just now, but I think podcasting is a form of meditation for me.
I watch you listen. I've watched you listen. You're really listening.
But in my off camera, sometimes I struggle with being a good listener because I have I've always believed that I have subclinical low grade ADHD. Mm-hmm. But the practice of podcasting itself has, I think, made me a much better listener. There's definitely been a spillover effect into my day-to-day life. But being a good podcaster requires you to be incredibly present. And there have been times over the course of my podcasting career, if you want to call it that, where I've, especially at the beginning, where I've allowed my mind to wander as it normally would in day-to-day life. And I've seen the negative consequences of that in terms of the quality of the conversation. So podcasting actually, it's not, I'm not repeating a mantra in my head.
That's right.
But I'm staying incredibly focused on the person sitting in front of me. Where else in life do you, for an hour and a half, are you ever that focused on somebody sitting across from you?
So you're practicing deep focus. You're listening hard, if you will. And if you are also adding to that a non-judgmental but kind of curious approach, okay, now you're a little bit closer to something that could resemble, and you are aware of what's happening inside of you, I'm judging, or look, my heart rate kicked up because I do not agree. And you're just aware in that, and you're working with all of that kind of broth of information. I think that you would check a box. Now, I'd be happy if you're yeah, that's really working for me. There's something to sort out, though. The deeper arc is, I got to tell you why maybe somebody would want to tune to what I'm saying here. Okay, first and foremost, I've been meditating for 26 years. So
you have been?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So my professor in graduate school, in my PhD program, he didn't tell us what we were doing. A small group of us. And he said, look, before we get started, we got a lot to focus on today. There's some really interesting stuff we're going to talk about. Look, just take a moment and just kind of sit in your chair. At first, I was like, what the fuck are we doing? What? And he's like, all right, just look, sit in your chair, relax just for a minute. It's all been busy. Just take a couple breaths and just kind of sit here. I had no idea what he was doing. And he was clear that it was too early for him to tell me, what we're doing. And then 3, 4, 6, 8 breaths, kind of stitched together. He said, just a couple more. And he was super practical. He was a Buddhist monk. I didn't know it. He went to Vietnam, had a real hard go, came back, struggled, and really didn't tell folks that he was on this Buddhist path. And he wasn't hiding it, but it was the operating system he was working from. And he's like, all right, that's good. Let's jump into it. And it wasn't corny or weird, or it was just in the flow of the class. It was awesome. So the thing that's happening there that I think is maybe a little bit more of a challenge for you in the listening hard, the listening curiously, is that if you spend so much time in the present moment, you end up getting to the truth of a thing. You end up really understanding a thing, which I think you might be doing. And then that leads to insight, which I think you're really doing. Oh, that's how Mike works. Or that's how this thing works. Oh, so you get these light bulb, gamma brainwave moments, aha moments, which are wonderful experiences in the body. Okay, boom. And then if you get a bunch of insights, you eventually cobble them together, if you will, to get to a wisdom, to a piece of wisdom, if you will. And if you've gone from hard, deep, signal-focused listening, you're building your awareness to come back to the present moment so that you can get to an insight and you can put a couple insights together over time for a deep wisdom, you're on your way. It can come from writing, it can come from listening, it can come from meditating, but moving in a gym usually doesn't allow that to happen.
Yeah. It requires a certain level of quietude, I guess.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that the first 40 minutes are crucially important. I tend to look at my phone almost immediately after opening my eyes, which I know is not good for me. But what's your tip? Sometimes I actually do struggle to get out of bed. Not all the time. Some days I spring out of bed excited for the day to come. Maybe I have some like low grade tendency towards, I don't know, like depressive thoughts or a depressive mood that I occasionally feel like I get the sense of Groundhog Day, like I get the sense that I have this feeling of like I'm not very excited to get out of bed. Sometimes I have to pull myself out of bed. Even though I love what I do and I'm very grateful for the reach that my work has, like I'm not happy all the time. Like I definitely, there are some days where it's harder for me to get myself out of bed. I'm like, oh, I've got to do that again. Or, oh, what I did yesterday, I'm just repeating the cycle again today. Like what's exciting about that? You know what I'm saying? Like it's like a low grade dysthymic, like, yeah, not clinical depression, but yeah, like how do I overcome that? That sometimes I just like, it's really difficult to peel myself out of bed.
Yeah, that's cool. Thank you for bringing it forward because you're not alone. And I'm imagining that a listener is like, yeah, me too. Is there an answer? I think the first is like, it's kind of normal. Now, if you string together a bunch of those days and it's kind of problematic to like the functioning, and it's like, no, you don't understand. I really am having a tough go. That's where it reaches the clinical grade. Okay. But nonetheless, the science of psychology has done something cool, which is let's study what that cluster looks like and figure out what is a best set of practices for that. Yeah. So whether it's subclinical or just kind of dysthymic, which means kind of a low hum of, right? Versus like deep, major depressive episode. Okay. And those are both marked by intensity and frequency. So how many days in a row, right? Okay. And the level of it. It doesn't sound like it's a loneliness. It just sounds like it's a whatever, blasé, right? Could it be a hypothyroid? Could it be a sleep cycle? Like I'm sure you're looking at deep versus REM sleep. Could it be that there's a lack of kind of vision that you're working for? I don't think that's it. Could it be a hormonal kind of dysregulation that is just kind of part of this phase of your life? Could be. There's a lot of different things, okay? I would just be like, oh, this is something that's happening this phase of my life. How do I want to go about it? Well, first order of business is to kind of build a little community that understands it, which is maybe what you're doing now. And what are some of the best practices? For sure. Everything we've talked about is a best practice. And I could add tons more. Are you hydrated? Probably. That's probably part of your game. Is your nutrients, dialed in? Probably. That's part of your game. And so you got to start ruling out some things. Okay. Is it alcohol related or drug related? That's up for you to decide. You don't have to answer that now. Is there a family history? Okay. You don't have to answer that now, of course. What are some best practices once you start ruling some stuff out is, okay, what am I going to do as a mini experiment to see the change that I'd like to change? Okay, or I'd like to have. Here's a really cool question. All right, Max, if a miracle took place tonight, everything that you can imagine and you would like to have happen is part of you when you wake up. Okay, so a miracle took place when you were sleeping. what would be the first thing that happens? And what would be the first thing that you notice when you wake up?
Yeah, I think maybe some form of meaningful novelty.
Okay, so a miracle took place. Okay, so you're in bed. You take the sheets off probably. Okay, what's the first thing when the sheets come off or you open your eyes that you would have some evidence that this miracle has took place? What do you notice?
In myself, I have that feeling of having just had a great night's sleep, whether or not I actually did. But I get that, I feel that sensation of wanting to spring out of bed.
Okay, so there's some vibrance that's happening. Okay,
Animated bird lands on my shoulder. I've suddenly, spontaneously manifested a fresh Honeycrisp apple.
good.
In hand.
In hand, right? So those are not going to happen, right? At least I don't know how to help. But when you're walking to the bathroom to go to the bathroom, what does that walk like?
I think I just feel strong. I feel capable. I feel all of my mental faculties are in order. I feel a sense of quiet. There's no inner chatter. And I just feel motivated.
Okay, cool. If there was somebody watching you, what would they notice?
They'd notice an energy, probably, a vibe, for lack of a better term.
When you wash your face, what happens there? What's that like?
Gratitude for the cool water, honestly, for a lack of pain, maybe. I had chronic back pain for 10 years. So I'd have pain whenever I would wash my face, bending over to a sink. So a lack of pain now. Yeah.
Would I notice that if I was watching?
Maybe.
Would you be like, is it demonstrative or is it kind of quiet?
It's pretty quiet, but maybe, lack of because now I bend over and no grimacing. I splash water on my face. I feel like strong,
Yeah.
I feel strong in body. And
There you
that
go.
has a way of informing my mental tenor as well.
Yeah, good. And we could keep extending this out to kind of play this narrative of what would happen when you're eating breakfast or walking downstairs or, whatever.
Are these all good answers, by the way? Or
they're your answers.
Are they displaying adequate insight?
Well, yeah, they're your answers.
Okay.
It's you using your imagination of how you'd like it to be. And then the follow-on, so this is considered a best practice in psychology. It's called the miracle question. You and your community can take a look at it. Super simple. It's really, kind of 3 questions that you go through. And it's brief. It's like kind of poignant. And it breaks the cycle of this like, I decide how I'm going to wake up. So even if I feel kind of weird, like shitty, dysthymic, I can actually get out of bed the way I want to get out and there be a little vibe. So your job is to just get out of bed and find the vibe. And even that's easy to do when everything's a miracle. It's harder to do when you have a little bit of a malaise about it. Okay, so that's a simple little target to go through. And you say, oh, that's too simple. It's actually quite simple to do that work. You say, ooh, I feel a little, all right, look, I'm just going to get to the sink. I'm going to go to the bathroom and I'm going to get to the sink and I'm going to be great. I am absolutely going to be gratitude, thankful. I'm going to have a little spark that I'm going to manufacture. I don't have to do it for 24 hours. I'm just going to do it until I go downstairs and then make another choice. So it's that kind of small, thin sliced thing that this miracle question allows you to use your imagination to say, that's actually it. That's the target. And so maybe just play with that for a little bit.
Yeah.
The other thing, just one more thing, Max, on this is that not to underestimate our friends. So have a friend kick your ass. Have a friend call you, be like, Max, and tell them, say, hey, dude, or hey, gal, I'm struggling like with my energy in the morning and you fire me up. Help me out. And so I got a friend right now that's always like, he'll leave me a message. He knows that it works for me. He leaves me a message like, I was up at 6:30, dude, or I was up at 6:15, or I was up at 5:45. Where are you at? Come on, let's get it. And he's just kind of almost cheesy, making fun of that, and it's like, oh yeah, because I know he wants me to be great. I want him to be great. So it's a fun little thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just funny that like some days I wake up and I'm just so excited to have that first cup of coffee, in the morning. I just I'm thinking, sometimes I go to bed excited about the cup of coffee that I'm going to have in the morning. And I've just brewed up a fresh batch of cold brew. I'm trying a new bean roast or whatever, brand or roast. And I just it's those little things that bring me so much joy. And then other days I wake up and it's the opposite feeling. It's like everything feels so rote.
Well, but you got to look at the directionality for just a moment. Think about bottom up and top down. Okay. So bottom up is my body is saying something, and then it's affecting my thinking. Okay. And then top down is my thoughts are going a certain way, and that's affecting my body. Okay. So it's totally interactionist. It's not like one direction holds the key.
It's not unidirectional. Yeah, it's like bi-directional.
So if I wake up and my body feels a certain way, I know I'm not going to let that shit guide my thoughts. I got to work with it. I'm going to be kind to myself. Be like, ooh, okay, feeling a little certain way. Maybe I ride this a little bit though. So I'm going to go two directions for you. Maybe I just ride this kind of malaise or this dysthymic because there's really good information in sadness. But I'm deciding. I'm not victimized by my body's chemistry. Yeah? Or I say, option 2, I'm like, oh, there's that dysthymia, or there's that kind of malaise thing that I was talking about with Mike the other day, and oh, it's there. No, not today. I'm going to get to breakfast. I don't know when you eat breakfast. Are you on an intermittent fast?
I eat breakfast. No, yeah.
What time do you eat breakfast?
Probably around 10, 9:30, 10. I'll have my first meal, and then I head to the gym soon after. Yeah.
Oh, so you eat before you work out?
I eat before I work out. Yeah. I don't think you necessarily need to. There was a long time where I was training fasted, but yeah, I like having that morning. Sometimes, I wake up sometimes looking forward to that.
Yeah. So we're just going on the off days.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that it's cool to ride that too. Study it. Oh, look, where's sadness in me? It's kind of my stomach, or it's kind of my back of my eyes. So you just use that for a moment to just observe it, to study it, to be a student of what's actually happening.
Yeah, you're reminding me of, I had last year Mike Posner on the podcast, who's super talented, Grammy-winning singer-songwriter, musician, and he's he's had this lifelong relationship with depression, with jealousy, and now he's gotten to a point where he basically sees them as old friends. He's not enemies. He's I see you, I acknowledge you. You maybe helped me get to a certain point in life. Years ago, but we're not hanging out today.
That's it. Yeah, there's a kindness to that. There's a gentleness. There's an eloquence to that. And that's more of an Aikido way of working with your thoughts and your feelings versus karate, which is no, stop. Hard right angles. I'm blocking, intercepting fists, I'm blocking you, as opposed to if you throw a punch in Aikido, I'm going to step aside and kind of use that power that you're throwing my way for my advantage, So I'm much more a fan of the Aikido of psychology as opposed to thought stopping and no, stay out. That's not okay. Use it. And so just go, that's bottom up stuff we're talking. And the top down is when you wake up and you feel a certain way, you say, yeah, look, okay, I appreciate you. Go to that place. And then you say, all right, here we go. It's on today. And you know what? I got some stuff I got to do. What do I got to do? I got to do this, that, and the other. And there's a refusal to allow you to fall too far away from the way that you want to engage with making coffee. And so you're just recognizing you are guiding your thoughts. Your physiology influences them. And if the coffee maker's broken, it can influence it, but you're ultimately responsible for this thing. Is it harder for somebody with, let's just say, ADHD to focus? Certainly. That's kind of the deal. Is it harder to have optimistic dare I say, or happy, dare I say, thinking patterns when your body feels removed from dopamine and like, yeah, of course it is. Shit, it's hard. Life is not designed for your success and mine. Like, I got to work at it. I know clinical anxiety. In college, I didn't know what it was. I was waking up in the morning at my sink, my hand shaking when I was brushing my teeth. I just thought I was a little bit of a weirdo. I didn't want to tell anyone because that's not right. And so I struggled quietly with general anxiety disorder for a healthy amount of time because I didn't know what it was, and I certainly wasn't going to ask for help. And I was, what a waste of time. It served me well. I wish I didn't have to go through that to really understand it. But there is a refusal to let the external world dictate my internal experience. I need to harmonize better rather than be at the whip's end of that experience.
Is that why you went into psychology?
Yeah.
Wow.
That was one of the main ones, but it was actually happened before that. There was this cool moment looking back. I didn't realize it at the time, but I was a good little surfer, and there's core surfing or culture surfing or hardcore surfing where you're just doing the thing to do it. And you don't, if you were to brag about something you did, the people, that culture would be like, get out of here. You know, like there's no pictures. You just get the knowing that you put yourself in a heavy situation and you figured it out. Okay. And then there was competitive surfing. And in competitive surfing, you got judges and people on the beach, and you got that exactly what you would imagine. I was terrible, Max. As soon as it got into like judging, critiquing, comparison, I was falling apart. I was already too hard. I was already too judgment of my critiquing myself. So that in that environment, I was totally dislocated from what I knew I could do. And I'm out in the heat. There's only 3 of us out in the water, beautiful conditions. It's about 7:30 in the morning. And my competitor in the heat paddles by me and he goes, Gervais, I surf with you all the time. You got to stop worrying about all the things that could go wrong. And then he paddled off. I was like, how did he know? Massive moment for me to go, oh, there's this, my body didn't change overnight. My technical skills didn't change. My craft didn't change overnight. It was my mind. I just didn't know what to do with that. So that was kind of that with the anxious soup, you know, that I was kind of consuming every day. That those were the two.
Damn, so interesting. Well, dude, loved having you in. This was fascinating. Thank you for being, in a way, my own performance coach.
Yeah, how about it?
Over the past hour and a half.
Wait, before we wrap, your community and what you're building is really cool.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah, like to be noted that there's a nobility in what you're doing, and I think we all feel it. And so thank you for being honest with your approach, both in this conversation, of course, and just like with what you're trying to do for others. It's really cool, dude.
Thank you so much. It means a lot coming from you, and I just try to do the best I can every day, and it's what I implore my listeners to a mindset that I guess I implore my listeners to adopt as well. It's not about perfection. It's about doing the best you can.
Period.
And yeah, brother. Likewise, I feel the same about you. Remind my listeners where they can consume your content, how they can support. We got to do this again. We got to make it because we're basically neighbors.
I know. I didn't quite put that together. So I can't wait to have you back on Finding Mastery, the podcast. That's a fun way to engage, to check out our community. The podcast is called Finding Mastery. The website has a bunch of resources of how we take best practices in the psychology of excellence from sport to business. And so there's a bunch of ways to kind of see what that part of our business looks like. And social's fun. I really engage. I like it. I like the social stuff. So at Michael Gervais would be one of those.
You stay out of the dog fights too, which
do you get into the dog fights?
I try not to actually. I try not to engage. Maybe on X I get a little spicier perhaps, but no. I'm getting better at deriving what I need to derive from social media and using it to spread my message, and take a step back when things get nasty, because there is the algorithms, the negativity bias. It can be a bit frustrating, at times. But yeah, it's about balance, I guess. There's a lot of good that I've gotten from the socials as well. Well, Dr. Gervais, thank you again. And to all you guys out there listening, check out Michael's work and share this episode with friends and loved ones who may benefit from it. And I will catch you on the next episode. Peace, everybody.
Hey, if you liked that video, you need to check out this one here, and I'll see you there.